Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day and welcome to my first community rankings video. As you could probably tell by the title, today we will be taking a look at your opinions on the levels within Twisted Metal 2. I asked you all to rate the levels on a scale from 0 to 10, and I've collected that data to create this list. I've averaged the results of each level and have broken them down into tiers, which look like this. We'll start from what you rank the worst level and work our way up to the best. Getting us started, the worst ranked level according to the community is Moscow, with an unimpressive average ranking of 3.89. Yeah, it's not really a surprise to me at all to see this one ranked at the very bottom. Worst level in the game in my opinion. It's just a missile silo, and if you don't blow up the bridges, you are screwed for weapons. Very few weapons, plus tiny arena, plus fighting against enemies who have infinite weapons, plus never any health pickups for you equals absolute hell. Easily the biggest gripe with Moscow is the utter lack of weapon and health pickups, and I totally agree. It can be super frustrating, but I do want to highlight those who have appreciation for this map. Given how I rank Field of Screams, this may be surprisingly high, but the general layout just always somehow ends up being fun, especially once the ricochets start flying. While there certainly are times when Moscow can be fun, it seems more often than not it's just a frustrating experience. There was one response that I feel really summed up the thoughts of the majority of people have on this level. Balls map. Up next is Holland, Field of Screams, with an average ranking of 5.32. This is another ranking that I'm not surprised to see, as even if you like Holland, there really isn't much to the level itself, which is kind of the point to be fair. There are bear traps more fun to dive head first in than playing on this map. While I'm sure there are many who dread Holland, there are also those out there who quite enjoy it, or at the very least can appreciate certain aspects of the level. Good music and map is decent. However, enemy car AI is unforgiving, which leads more towards frustration for most players. I would have to agree that the unrelenting AI of Twisted Metal 2 definitely makes Holland a frustrating experience most of the time. Big open field with hardly any cover and 9 enemies to rinse through. Pure chaos, but the battlefield is built big enough for it to not feel completely unfair. The windmills act as nice tiny spaces to get a reprieve, but not entirely safe. With it being so open and meant as the TM2 equivalent of a cage match, it does lose some points for being pretty simple or barren. Not a bad level by any means though. Well said, Webster. This map sort of acts like the Final Destination type map, where there really aren't any gimmicks, it's just an open field, which can definitely be appreciated. Coming up next in the list with an average score of 6.86 is Antarctica. Seeing this kind of surprised me, as I thought this map would have been rated higher due to seeing a lot of love for the map lately. Let's take a look at some of the criticisms of the map. Amazing concept, but the execution leaves something to be desired. I think it's kinda stinky that the level falls apart solely based on the player's location, and a single stray machine gun shot can cause the next iceberg to fall. Side note, the manual says that Santa Claus can be found here as a pedestrian, but in my hundreds of playthroughs I've never found it. From my understanding, Santa Claus will only appear in the PC version of the game, which definitely sucks, but that's probably why you haven't seen him. Frustrating if not using the ricochet cheese on the lone iceberg. I won't lie, I find myself using this tactic more often than not when loading into this level during a playthrough. It's a way to get back at the cheap AI, and it feels great. The collapsing always seemed to begin too fast and left you with a subpar version of the map. From my experience, I haven't noticed the map falling apart too quickly, at least not very often, but I can certainly see more methodical and surgical playstyles being punished for waiting too long to execute on this map. Now let's take a look at some of the positive comments for Antarctica. Another good stage, the unique gimmick with a sense of urgency. If you don't play fast enough, there will be no ground to play on. It's a cool concept. I think the stage itself, before it melts, is awesome too. I do find the ramps to get health annoying sometimes, but again, that's just a skill issue on my part. The sense of urgency definitely is the most compelling element of the map in my opinion, and it's what makes it a real joy to play. This has always been my favorite map. The theming and aesthetic of the map are both awesome. The randomized falling areas are really fun and make sure that you're always on your toes, adding a high layer of tension to even small one-on-ones. They also did a good job of adding variety to the arena with the arch, the mountain, and the valley. Easily my favorite map. Antarctica just seems to be pretty divisive overall, with some people loving the element of the map falling apart, with others finding it to be an annoying gimmick. There seems to be just a bit more people who like the map rather than dislike it though. I personally really enjoy this map and find the parts of the map falling to really add to the strategic decision making and quick thinking elements of the game. Coming up next and just barely inching out Antarctica is New York, with an average score of 6.95. I've always really liked the atmosphere on this map. Overlooking the city at night on the rooftops is always a cool concept, and I really think they did a great job here. Though like many of you, I don't think it's perfect. Let's hear some of the complaints towards the map. This map has been studied by top scientists of cartography, and still they have no answers on how to efficiently navigate this map. New York can certainly be confusing at times, with many paths looking similar and teleporters taking you to different elevations. It definitely takes quite a few plays of the map to get a good feel for the overall layout and secret spots. Weapon spawns near ledges is not good design. Too much empty space in certain sections. I've been a victim of my own hubris trying to collect those weapons near the edge too many times, and I can agree that some rooftops feature a ton of empty space with virtually nothing inhabiting it, which is pretty boring. But now, let's take a look at those who really enjoy New York and what it brings to the game. Rooftop stages can be hit or miss for me, it depends on the map. This one, luckily, is really cool. It has a lot of dynamic jumps and gameplay elements. Falling into the pool is one of my favorites. I will say that the jumping section with the health and the yellow square thing is a bit awkward with the controls of Twisted Metal 2. That might just be a nitpick though. Feels a lot like the final level of Twisted Metal 1, which is weird because some character endings here imply it was the final level at one point. Dealing with the AI can be painful, and the jumps will test your handling. We're past the minion boss, so it's fair for the game to start to acknowledge checks like this. Speaking of that, don't play Grasshopper here. Grasshopper can definitely be a scary pick on this map, given you could just accidentally fly off the map using your special attack. Ultimately, New York is overall well liked, but isn't without its fair share of critics either. I enjoy this map quite a lot, but given that I also enjoy plenty of other maps in this game, I can mostly agree with this placement on the list. Up next with an average score of 7.35 is Amazonia, the Firewalk. This is another map that I personally love and may have ranked even higher if it were my own ranking. I really enjoy the aesthetic of the fiery map as well as the risk-reward aspect of driving through the lava, though this level isn't without criticism. A complicated stage that doesn't mix well with the clunky controls and the input lag. You feel like a sitting duck most of the time, so you try to hit and run, but that might end up with you trying to get out of the lava while dodging enemy fire. Not super fun. Very good level design, aesthetics, weapon pickups, etc. The minion fight is also really iconic, only held back by having the weakest song in the soundtrack. Now, let's take a look at some more praise for Amazonia from those who really enjoy the map. Not bad, its simplicity is made up for by the gimmick, and how that changes the gameplay dynamic. Some characters can weather the lava, others speed to make it a non-issue. There isn't much to discuss because putting it into words why this map feels fun is rather pointless. It's just fun by near unexplainable nature. The same goes for the minion boss fight. I really couldn't agree more. This map just has a really cool design and it's always a joy to play. The many ramps and slopes can sometimes cause frustration, but I don't find it to be too annoying. For me, this and Paris are tied. I think Amazonia might just edge it out, but they are both extremely fun to play. Amazonia is open and has a lot of room to move, but the lava adds a sense of danger. Amazonia also has many small rooms to explore, which is a nice touch. I also felt this map was just a great one to fight minion on. Well said, the minion fight on this stage is undeniably iconic, and was the final fight for many players who chose the easy difficulty, letting everyone experience this epic fight. Moving up into the top 3 of the rankings is Los Angeles with an average score of 7.78. The first map in the game has certainly left a great impression on most players, given its high ranking within the list, and I can see why. Though, LA isn't without its faults. As a first level, LA is very bare bones, but a great starting point for new players or returning players who haven't played in a while. While I think there are a good amount of set pieces around the level, I can also agree that there is probably a bit too much dead space with not much going on. In my mind, this is the most iconic opening in the Twisted Metal series, save for Scrap and Salvage. It has arguably the best song in the franchise, a few cool points of interest, and makes for a good starting level, but going back to it, it does feel kind of barren in some parts. Like, going up and down between the midsection, tunnel road, and various points of interest is cool, but it doesn't feel as alive as the other levels in Twisted Metal 2. The same sentiment is shared here, where the biggest complaint is the abundance of negative space without anything really going on. I feel like if this map was shrunk down 10-20%, it would make for a much more exciting map. This level has one of the best songs in the franchise. It also holds nearly everything you will encounter in the game, from destructible environments, varied areas you need to utilize for weapons, getaways, and health. I think everyone can agree that the music for Los Angeles is iconic and really sets the mood for the entire game. As first level of the game, Los Angeles is iconic as its song in the soundtrack. Its multi-level design, with the elevated flat battleground up top surrounded by the road sections below it, give nice variety to the terrain and is good for numerous playstyles, and plenty of unique structures like the tunnels, the bridge to the cage room, the jumps in that one section of the road, and the fire pit definitely keeps things interesting. Perfectly said, Flying Farron. I think this really sums up what most people love about Los Angeles, with its varied layout and ability for multiple playstyles to exceed. Those elements are crucial for a first level to nail, and Los Angeles did just that in most players' eyes. Moving on, the map that takes the number 2 spot on the list is Hong Kong with an average ranking of 8.22. This map is where the journeys of medium and hard difficulty runs will culminate in a showdown within the streets of Hong Kong itself. While most comments on Hong Kong are pure praise, there are some who have fair criticisms for the map. This is a hit and run kind of level. It feels a bit lacking for a final level, and visually it doesn't look as good as previous locations. Parked cars can be a real pain in the neck when you're chasing down someone and trying to shoot them, or when you're running for your life, turning corners, and suddenly, bam, you crash into that one taxi, losing momentum and health. And don't get me started on the possibility of dying out of bounds when driving in the water section. While I've never personally died in the out of bounds sections, I've heard plenty of accounts of it happening to others. I like Hong Kong in segments and specific aspects, but my god does the level physics do it no favors. I would have to assume this is referring to the many slopes that can be found in Hong Kong, like in the water section and the entrances to the closed off middle area and the train. Solid map design, plenty of weapons. Subway connecting the map is cool and provides different avenues for players to traverse the map. The fact that there is rarely a shortage of weapons paired with an interesting map design also leaves Hong Kong feeling exciting and fun. Perfect last level. Huge, but also doesn't feel too big because of the aggressive AI in this level. The AI in this level can be absolutely brutal, chasing you through the streets and never leaving you alone, but that definitely helps keep the map from feeling too boring and too massive like you pointed out. Definitely up there with Paris and Amazonia as the top 3 of Twisted Metal 2. Tons of different avenues broken up by big open mid and corner sections. A ton of stuff to do in this level, combined with a bunch of neat set pieces such as the subway, temple, and harbor areas. The visuals are varied and interesting, and definitely is one of, if not the, first level I think of from Twisted Metal 2. Darktooth is good. Works pretty well as a final boss and a big imposing threat, but not the best boss in the series. The head coming off as a phase 2 is a nice touch. Iconic Twisted Metal 2 level, one of the grades. This does a fantastic job of summarizing what I think most people really love about this level. Plenty of different routes to take, different sections of the map that are interesting, and an imposing boss fight at the end with a surprise phase 2. A great ending to a classic game. Now it's finally time to take a look at the number 1 spot on the list voted by all of you, Paris, with an incredible average score of 9.03. Reading through all of your comments on the map, I was hard pressed to find much criticism at all, and I understand why. This level is simply iconic, and is the first level that comes to mind for many players when they think about Twisted Metal 2. Love this level. Learned more about Paris from this game than school. Unique music, fun secrets. It was always a race to see who was going to be the first one to blow up the tower. The Eiffel Tower being destructible is undeniably one of the most iconic moments in the entire series. It's just a really cool piece of dynamic level design that gives players the ability to alter the map through their own actions. Probably my favorite map in the game. Good amount of space and great environmental interactions. I mean, who doesn't like blowing up the Eiffel Tower? I think this stage is just amazing. It gives one of the most extensive destructibles in the game. The map is big but not oversized. It is also just iconic in every regard. I think this is one of the best stages that Twisted Metal 2 has to offer, hands down. Paris is even more iconic for Twisted Metal 2 than Los Angeles is. Chances are when you picture yourself playing this game, it's one of these two levels. The streets are a blast to fight in, the river to the Eiffel Tower is a fun drive through, the secrets in the museum when you burn the paintings are clever when you find that out, and when you blow up the Eiffel Tower and gain access to the roofs, you never forget that moment. Paris really just seems to have it all. It's a good sized space with a great layout, plenty of weapons and health, and the ability to open up a whole new section of the map. Plus, it has fantastic music to accompany it. I feel the sentiment of most players can be summed up in this final comment. One of the greatest maps in the history of the series. And here is a full look at the list. I want to thank all of you who participated. This has been a ton of fun to do, and I'm really grateful for being given this opportunity, so again, thank you. I may be doing more of these community rankings videos, so be sure to stay updated on my community page to see if any new surveys are up. I really hope all of you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.